This is the radiator that I'm going to work on. I had repaired this tank several years ago, and I'm still getting a little leak somewhere in the bottom underneath this metal plate, and then I'm also have a small leak right here. So I'm going to pull all this off again, clean it up, try to repair the tank, and we'll try to put it back together and see how well it goes. See if we have any more leaks. Put this off right there. Heat this up, take this lower support off. Blow this solder out, run the tank. I got all the solder out around this tank. All I gotta do is pry it all out. Pull these brackets back out of the way a little bit. There. I cleaned up the lower radiator tank and noticed there's a little bit of solder that leaked through. So when I did this patch, I must have missed a spot there, and then when I put that plate on the bottom of the solder, it found it worked its way through. I don't think that's where my leak is, but I'm going to finish grinding out the outside of here and take a look and see if I can see anything that looks like it may be a hole, and just try to get this tank squared up a little bit, cleaned up, so that I know I won't get a leak on it the next time when I put it back together. I'm going to take just this regular sander disc and try to remove all this excess soldering and maybe some of this brass welding. Okay, I got it ground down and I can see where the weld was fractured here, and that's where the solder was leaking through into the inside of the tank. So I'm going to take and clean this up a little bit more, and I'm using a trimble tool, and I bought this cutting wheel and grinder from Bad Dog Tools. So I'm going to try it out this first time using it. It claims a lifetime guarantee, and since it is not like a regular brazier wheel, the brass won't get gummed up in the wheel. So we'll see how this does with cleaning this up real quick. Still see there's some solder in here in the brass, and that fracture is getting worse. I'm going to pretty much get that solder all out of there before I come back and rebraze this area of the tank. And I'm also going to clean some of these other areas up a little bit, make it look better with this tool. Grinding, no brass got jammed up in there, doesn't appear like it would with a regular abrasive wheel. I have this blob of solder here that I want to get out of there, so that when I do braze this, I won't get contamination of the solder. So I'm going to grind this the best I can to get as much out of there. I'd like to clean all the bottom of this pan, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the bottom of this tank cleaned out very good. I just broke through right there, so it's going to get repaired anyway. So that piece popped out. I'm going to fill that back up with brass rod. Filled the tank with just regular sand, and that way it'll hold the brazing. When it starts to get hot, it won't fall down. So basically put this board as a backup. wasn't having very good results with the brazing on this lower tank, so I'm decided I'm going to use this Stay Sil 15. It's a silver brazing rod that I've used in heat and air conditioning work, and works really good when you're sweating on your lines, refrigerant lines to a air conditioning compressor. So I'm gonna try to use that to fix some of these holes that I have, those spots, different places. I think don't see it right off, but there's a couple places that you can see light through when you look through it. So I'm gonna try to touch those areas up. There's one here. I think maybe that's a little spot there. And I'll look and find, I'll mark the other ones. That may be one there. For this repair, I'm going to use my acetylene air torch setup. This is a turbo torch, just regular acetylene like plumbers use, and has the turbo torch. So I'm going to repair this one hole here real quick. See how that works with it. Repair that hole right there. And I'm going to fix this little pinhole right there. Here I have a crack that runs along in here, so I'm going to try to repair that next. There's also a pinhole right there I'm going to patch up. I have the tank complete. It's all repaired and it looks marginal, but it'll work for what I want it to do. The other thing I'm doing is taking this brazing rod and I'm just using this as a rectangle shape, and I'm just using it to clean to basically rod the radiator out. I found a couple spots where it was jammed up a little bit, but I'll get this all cleaned out with, get all these before I put the the lower tank on. Tank's all cleaned up. I cleaned up all the areas where it's going to be soldered on the tank and on the radiator itself. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these brackets back a little bit, get this tank into the spot where it needs to go. And the lower port for the hose has to face the same direction as the one on the top, so it's facing me. You can't see that from where you're at, but it is. That's on there pretty good. This radiator project's been going on for way too long, so it's been sitting for a while, and that area where I need to solder it has gotten some corrosion built up again. So I'm gonna have to just take the wire wheel on the end of a die grinder, and I'm just gonna try to get as much of that corrosion out of there as I can, so I can make a good solder joint. So I just start along cleaning this up the best I can with this. It should do pretty good with a wire wheel, but just get that old corrosion all off there, and hopefully I can get this thing soldered up and get it back on the tractor. I cleaned pretty much as much of the radiator as I could. And so what I'm going to do, I have some acid paste flux. I'm just going to flux this edge here all around. While my solder iron is getting hot, I'm going to preheat this area and kind of pre-clean this where I couldn't get it very good. I'm going to take the torch, it's a small MAP gas torch, and I'm just going to heat the area where I want to be soldering to get it kind of preheated a little bit, not to get it up to full temperature, but just get everything warmed up, because it's a 300 watt iron, and that's asking a lot for a 300 watt iron to heat up a radiator. It's asking for a lot. So we'll get it pretty warm, and then the solder iron won't have to work so hard. So I just take the this flux will activate, and it should push any porosity or anything up to the surface, up to the top. I may do this one more time because it does take a while for that solder iron to get up to temperature. What this is, I'm not bringing it up to the melting temperature. I'm just bringing it up kind of close to the melting temperature of the solder. At this point, I could probably just put a little bit more, just a little bit more flux on it to get it activated a little bit more cleaning. And like I said, I'm gonna have to probably, because that iron takes a little while to heat up, I'm gonna probably have to do this again, but I just wanted to show you how you can get this flux to kind of activate and clean prior to soldering, and to bring the solder joint up to a closer temperature to what it needs to be. So now it's just waiting for the iron to get up to temperature, and then we'll start soldering this. I'm gonna apply just a little bit more flux to this, and then heat it one last time. It's just slightly warm to the touch right now, so let me get some heat on this so that that soldering iron can do its magic, hopefully, and seal up this radiator. Okay, I'm going to start down on this end here. Which it looks not too bad, except for right there, it looks kind of bad. I'm going to try to use roll solder first, but I got bar solder, which I'm probably going to end up using bar solder, but let's see how well this works for now. That 300 watt iron is doing a pretty good job, I think. If I would have had everything a lot cleaner, it would be doing a lot better job. Since the let it sit so long between getting it fixed and then deciding to solder it. So it's got a lot of corrosion down in these areas. I must have to take it all the way back apart. You can hear that flux just boiling out of there. I'm getting places where it's not taking the solder. Let me keep the heat on the tank. See if that helps. It's kind of helping a little bit, but not really. Let's see, let's go right here. It's a bad spot in here too. Still got one little bad spot. I can come back and get that once it cools down a little bit. Just pour a little more solder. Try to get down in here a little bit. Flux this area up. Now it's hot, it should get some of that contaminant out of there. It's not getting it out of there. See if we can get this, start working on this neck, see if we can get this neck to solder in. Soldering the one top part across the top, that's it. I think I'm trying to get the flux to do too much work. That neck's not soldering good at all. But across the top, soldered really nice. It turned out to be a nice joint on the top. Definitely sealed. But over here on the side, and most likely the bottom's not sealed up either. And that's not sealing good. Just don't have the metals. Metal's just not clean enough. Take my wire brush. If that'll help clean some of that afterthought cleaning. But back in here, it looks pretty good. There's a spot there that don't look too good. That's got a dimple there. This is not good wetting there. Overall, it doesn't look too bad. A lot of places not real good wetting, like right in there is not real good wetting. And I didn't see any really good wetting around the lower hose connection. And if you look right there on the end of the tank, there's practically no wetting there. Go around the other side. Can't see a shadow in there. It doesn't look like it has good wetting, but if you look down in there, that wetting looks good at the end of the tank. And all in there, that's marginal wetting. And let's see. There's a bad spot right there where I'm focusing, not good wetting. And there's not, a lot of it doesn't have good wetting. And then as you go to the end of the tank, look on the about midways, that doesn't have there's no connection at all, or no solder really bridging between the tank and the radiator. And on this end, you can't see it, but let's see if I can focus in. It appears to have okay wetting there, but not really good. So overall, this soldering isn't that good, but I think I'm going to go over a couple of those places and then we'll pressure test it and see how it goes. I just think it's going to be what it is. It's an old tractor. As long as it don't leak much, I should be fine with it. The iron appears to be up to temperature now, so we're going to work on some of these places that just doesn't look like it has good wetting on the solder joints. Try to clean up some of that. Right there, doesn't. I mean, if you go down in the joint, it looks like it has good wetting, but at the surface, it definitely looks like didn't wet the full solder joint. So we'll start right here on this one here, this spot. This 300 watt iron seems to do a really nice job. I didn't think it would have enough heat capacity to do this, so I was kind of surprised. Still not getting good wetting there. It's solder, but not what I call a good solder connection. There's water down in there. I can hear it boiling in there. When I guess I washed it, water laying down in there. Now this is a hard place to get right here. Probably not going to be able to see any of that. But that did turn out better. Let's see if we can get this hose fitting. It just doesn't seem like it wants to wet at all. Now that doesn't mean that it's not soldered down inside the neck, which Could very well be, but it just rolls right off, which solder's going to do anyway, but it should get a little bit of wetting. It should hold to something a little bit, but it's not. So I'm thinking there's a good chance that this is going to be where my leak is. I'm probably going to lay this down and solder that with it flat. I have a better chance of getting that to solder, I think. At this radiator, it's laying down flat now. We're going to try to fill this lower hose fitting. Try to get it to get a better solder joint than what it was. Let me get my shouldn't have to do this, but we are having to do it. From my vantage point, it looks as though it's taking solder now, but you with the camera probably can see better than I can. Come around this side. Get that. I think it looks better, at least from what I can see, it looks better. I can't tell if it's got good wetting or not because I'm at an angle I really can't see if it has good wetting on the solder joint. But I'm looking on the tank. As far as the tank is concerned, it looks like I'm getting decent wetting on the tank. So I'm going to go that if the tank has good wetting, then the fitting should have good wetting too. I have this bottom bracket clamped up where I got to re-weld this right across here. Put that bracket back together. I'm just going to tack weld that with a MIG welder, and then we'll solder this bracket to the bottom tank of the radiator. Let's see how well this soldering iron does on this plate. This may be where it's going to have its issue by not heating this up enough. We may have to use may need to use a torch for this, but we're going to see what it can do. I'm going to feed the solder through these holes. I'm thinking I'm not going to get enough heat into there. So let's put this all aside for a minute. I'm going to try the torch real quick. Put some fresh flux in there. But I'm going to try to concentrate the heat out in here, out in this area here. Let me switch up. Getting warm. It pulled up. It's standing getting pretty hot. Solder's going somewhere. Hopefully it's going where it needs to be. Still got nice and warm. I'm going to put some more flux on it. Doesn't appear that I'm affecting this joint on the, that's here. Doesn't seem like this joint's getting affected. Hopefully it don't fall out. I'm gonna let it go at that. I know there was solder underneath of this, and I still gotta do the other side. So, while it's still warm, I'm gonna see if it's cooled. It's gonna cool off fairly quickly because it has all this metal. Yeah, it cooled off enough. I wanna turn this thing over without burning myself. And get the other side. And again, I put some more flux in here. And this side I was going to put a vice grip clamp right on this side of the hole to bring it down. Get some solder out. Make sure I still got it. I'm still in view. But my torch is going to hit the tripod. I got it warmed up. I'm going to put just a little bit more flux in it. And then again, hope to get heated up without disturbing that solder joint. Concentrate most of the heat down at the bottom here, so it should, there it's pulling up. Started to pull the solder out of that joint. Pulled a little bit of solder out of that joint, but I don't think that bracket's going to go anywhere. It may not. I really don't think it's soldered in real good, but I just don't think it's going to go anywhere. I pulled that in, even around that clamp. I can pull this spot right there in. All right, that's all I'm going to do, because I don't want to take a chance on messing up the other solder joint. So once this cools down, I'm going to wash everything all up real good, clean it, and then I'll do a pressure test on it to see how many leaks I have. Hopefully none, but I think that's very optimistic of not having any leaks. I have it all fixtured up to do a pressure test on it, so I'm going to fill it up with water first, get that. I'm hoping it don't leak, but it's probably going to leak. That's just the way it is. Okay, we're filled up. Put the cap on it. I'm gonna lay it up on the bench or the sawhorses to do the test. So I'll be able to see it dripping somewhere. This is a regular pressure pump for testing radiators. Yeah, I'm leaking out of the cap. The cap's leaking. Cap's leaking like a sieve. Let me bring that thing around, show you. Let me pump it up again. See, the cap's leaking. Definitely the cap's leaking, but since I got it up a little bit of pressure, I let it out by pushing, trying to get it up to, see if I can get it up any amount of pressure. I can't get any pressure, but it's not even getting up to 4 psi because it's leaking out of the cap so bad. But the good news is nowhere back here I see any leaks. Bring the camera over here. That's how to bring the camera down to a view where you see, you'll be able to see the water dripping out of the cap. But there's nothing, no evidence of anything dripping back here. It's just wet where I filled it up. No water droppings, which I would expect something. Keep hitting that button to release. But because the cap is leaking so bad, I can't get the gauge to go up, even up to 4 psi. So finally, I'm done with this radiator. It's been a challenge, to say the least. I started on this a while back ago. So getting that tank fixed, that was, I thought I was going to be able to braze it like I did before when I put the patch on it. And that did work. So I used the silver brazing rod, and that worked really good. And then the 300 watt soldering iron worked really great. I was surprised. I figured it wasn't going to be enough power or enough wattage. So that worked good, and I got it soldered up, and it didn't have any leaks that I could detect because the cap was leaking around the cap. So I couldn't get the pressure up enough to really see if the bottom tank was leaking any. But the solder joints looked marginal at best, so hopefully they'll hold up, and I'll get this thing back in the tractor and get that tractor back up and start running around a little bit. So hope you liked my video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you have any comments about what things I did to make this happen, give me a comment, send me comments. If you like my channel, like the things you're seeing on my channel, subscribe to my channel and you'll start seeing more assortment of things that I'm going to be working on. So thanks for watching.